Hi, today we're going to discuss 5 things every student should know about the SAT. My name is Bock and I am the founder of Specifix Prep, a SAT preparation company. The first thing I'd like to discuss with you is order of difficulty. Almost all of the questions on the SAT have an order of difficulty. That is, as the questions progress, as the numbers get higher, the difficulty increases. This is really important. It happens on the math section. All the questions follow order of difficulty. For most of the questions on the writing section, all the questions but improvement paragraphs, which are the last 6 of the 25-minute grammar section, and the sentence completions in the reading section. All of these questions follow order of difficulty. Now, this seems like a pretty straightforward concept, but it's actually really useful. You're probably wondering, so what? Why do I care? Why should I care about this? Well, the first thing you should know is that hard questions should have hard answers. If you're on a question that has a high number and the approach feels very straightforward, you're doing something wrong. You really need to reevaluate your approach at this point or skip the question. The other side of the coin, easy questions should have easy answers. You really shouldn't second guess yourself or doubt yourself too much on a question with a low number, because the straightforward approach is generally the correct approach on easy questions. Typically the only mistakes you're going to make on easy questions are misreading the question. The second thing I want to talk to you about is guessing. Random guessing on the SAT is very bad. They actually have something built into the scoring of the test to prevent that from helping your score. However, smart guessing is good. And that means if you can get rid of answer choices, it's okay to guess. You actually only need to eliminate one answer choice in order to statistically improve your score. Of course, the more answer choices that you get rid of, the higher the likelihood of you getting the correct answer. And if you're able to get rid of 4 answer choices, bingo, you found the right answer. So just remember that it's okay to guess as long as you're guessing intelligently. The next thing I want to discuss is skipping. Unless you're shooting for a very high score, and that is over 700, you really shouldn't answer every question. I'll show you why. Here's a chart for converting raw scores to scaled scores on the SAT. You'll see that in order to get within a certain range, you have to earn a certain number of raw points. Let's say you're shooting for a 600 in the reading section. There are 67 questions. In order to get a 600, you really need to be in the 45 to 49 questions correct range, which means that you can theoretically leave the rest of the questions blank if you're getting those ones correct, which means you have a lot of wiggle room. Students who are answering every single question and not scoring above the 700 range are really hurting their scores. So it's really important to remember that it's okay to skip questions on reading, math, and writing. Next up, I want to talk about geometry. Something really important to know is that the figures are usually drawn to scale. That is, unless you see the disclaimer, the note figure not drawn to scale, it is drawn to scale, which means that you can eyeball it if you're stuck. Let's take a look at an example. So you have this triangle, and you see that one of the sides is given as 4, and the question is asking for x. Now, the way this question is written, it's unsolvable. There's not enough information. But let's say you were here and you were stuck. Well, you know that this 4 is 4 everywhere. So you can start to say to yourself, okay, that length is consistent, then I can compare it to the length of this x. And if I eyeball it, I see that that's about 2.5 times the 4. So my guess would be around 10. And that's actually a really good guess. And that will help you get rid of a lot of wrong answer choices. Another slightly harder, more sophisticated example is here. This one is a sector. It's a sort of a wedge of a circle. And let's say the question is asking you to find the area of this sector. Well, again, there's not enough information here to actually solve the question. But if you recognize that the arc is 5 pi, and pi is around 3, then you know that the arc is around 15, maybe a little more than 15. This is actually really close to a triangle, though. So if we straighten that out and we made it into a triangle, and then said, you know what, that's around 15, it's a little shorter, then I have a really good basis for estimating the area. You can start to estimate the base, you can start to estimate the height, and you actually get a really good, accurate estimate for the area of the wedge. So remember, if it doesn't say figure not drawn to scale, it is, and you can start to estimate. The last thing I want to discuss with you is the experimental section. Now, the experimental section is an extra section. There are 3 math sections, there are 3 reading sections, and there are 3 writing sections on the SAT. However, the SAT has 10 sections. So what they do is they throw in an additional 25-minute section. And basically, this is an opportunity for them to try out questions for future tests. Now, first thing that's important to know about the experimental section, it is not identified as such. If it were, most students would skip it, and rightly so. Now, because it's experimental and because it's not identified, it also doesn't count towards your score. Getting the questions right or wrong won't impact your score either way. It's just for this one section. And that's actually really good news because a lot of students will hit the experimental section and panic. They're going to feel like the questions are more difficult than they're used to, or there's something they're not used to seeing on the practice tests. It's probably the experimental section. So if you're taking the test and you hit a really difficult section, don't let it mess with your confidence. Just say to yourself, that was probably the experimental section, and I'm just going to recompose myself and move on. If you have 2 bad sections, that's another story. Okay, so let's do a quick review. The first thing we discussed was order of difficulty, as the questions get harder as the section progresses. The second is guessing. You really should not be guessing randomly on this test. The third is skipping. Don't answer every single question unless you are shooting for over a 700. The next was geometry. The figures are usually drawn to scale, so you can start to eyeball. This is particularly useful on the harder questions. And lastly, we now know that there is the experimental section on the test, and we're not going to let that mess with our confidence. Okay, so if you have any questions about anything I've discussed with you today, feel free to shoot me an email. It's patrickbock@specifixprep.com, or you can visit us on the web at specifixprep.com. I look forward to hearing from you.